Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to Ideas, innovative dialogues on educational approaches and scholarship, supported by Research Hub, Faculty of Education, Simon Fraser University, where we delve into the fascinating research journeys and lives of graduate students and scholars. We acknowledge that Simon Fraser University is located on the unceded traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Coquitlam nations. We recognize and respect their historical and ongoing connection to these lands. Today, we're honored to have Makhifirat Olimshoeva join us. Makhifirat is a faculty member at the University of Central Asia in Tajikistan and a current PhD candidate at SFU. Makhifirat is a mature researcher and an experienced educator. Her current research focuses on student success, a topic I know will resonate with many students and researchers alike. In today's episode, we'll borrow Makhifirat's wisdom and explore the multifaceted realities of higher education, examining student success, the structures of support, and the struggles that call for new perspectives and responses. Hello, Makhifirat. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, everyone.
Could you start by briefly introducing yourself and your research interests, especially how they connect to student success?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me today. Hello, my name is Makhifirat Olimshoeva, and I'm currently completing my PhD in Individualized Interdisciplinary Studies at Simon Fraser University with a focus on education and sociology anthropology. I have over 15 years of teaching experience, ranging from the University of Central Asia in Tajikistan to working with adult learners and youth through community education. My research interest centers on student success in higher education, especially how individual, institutional, and cultural factors intersect to shape outcomes. I look at how family, heritage, and institutional conditions influence the way students navigate challenges and opportunities in their academic journey.
Thank you for sharing that background. Building on your journey, I'd love to hear more about what you see as the biggest challenges students face today.
Well, when we talk about the challenges, there are plenty of challenges, right? And when I think about the biggest challenges students face, both my research and my teaching experience point to the fact that these challenges are rarely one-dimensional. They are layered, interconnected, and often go beyond the classroom. One of the most consistent themes that I've seen is cultural and familial expectations. Many of the students I interviewed at the University of Central Asia, for example, balance not just their coursework, but also responsibilities at home, helping with young siblings, contributing to family income, or fulfilling cultural obligations. At Simon Fraser University, international students often describe similar pressures where their academic success carried the weight of their family's sacrifice and expectations. Another challenge is financial strain. This came up repeatedly in my data, whether in Central Asia or here in Canada. Students talked about juggling part-time work, remittances, or loans, and how this financial stress impacts their focus and well-being. It's not just about, paying tuition. It's about whether they can sustain themselves and their families while studying. A third, challenge is what I'd call an institutional fit and pedagogy. Students sometimes struggle when the way they are being taught doesn't align with their prior learning experiences. And I think we all have been through this. For example, UCA students sometimes found the shift to Western-style critical thinking difficult, while SFU students pointed out that courses sometimes lack of culturally responsive approach. That mismatch can make students feel like outsiders in their own classrooms. And finally, there is an issue of identity negotiation. Many students live in between spaces, between home culture and university culture, or between being a caregiver, a single parent, and being a learner. This creates tension, stress, and sometimes even self-doubt about whether they belong in higher education. Now, why is it important to talk about these challenges? For me, there are main reasons. First of all, we have to break the silence. Students often think they are alone in their struggles, but open conversations remind them they are not. Second, driving institutional changes. If these issues remain invisible, universities can't address them. Many research shows that things like financial strain or cultural misalignment aren't just personal struggles, they are systematic realities. Talking about them helps us design better policies like flexible financial aid, culturally responsive advising, and even family inclusive workshops. And third, building community. As an educator, I've seen how powerful it is when students share their struggles and support one another. It builds resilience and reduces isolation. And finally, redefining success. When we talk about challenges openly, we move from thinking of success in terms of grades, right? Because this is a misunderstanding that we think as students and everybody around us, think in higher education, it's only the grades that shows our success. We begin to see success as persistence, growth, and the ability to navigate the complexity, which is very much in line with the models I've been working on. The models that I'm proposing for my research are the newly innovated models called Integrated Student Success Model and the Family Support Model.
Thank you for sharing. As an international student, I deeply resonate with what you just shared. And you've highlighted some really important struggles. I'm curious, what kind of support do you think the current institutions are offering? And is it enough?
Well, I think about whether students receive adequate support from institutions. My own answer is support exists, but it is often uneven, fragmented, or not fully accessible. In my research, many students at Simon Fraser University acknowledged that resources are there, academic advising, writing centers, counseling, and financial aid, but they often describe this support as something you have to find or fight for rather than something that is proactively offered. International students, for example, shared that they didn't always know which services were available or how to access them. At the University of Central Asia, the institutional resources were fewer, but the smaller size of community made support more personal. Still, students expressed that structural and financial support remained limited. So the challenge is not just whether student supports exist, but whether it's timely, accessible, and cultural relevant.
Yes, that's a very important point that you've made. Thank you. How would you describe the sense of community in your academic environment? And how does it impact student success?
Well, when I look at the sense of community in my academic environment, I would describe it as being both present and fragile. On the one hand, I've witnessed incredible support networks among students themselves. They share notes, offer emotional support, and build friendship that carry them through difficult times. And me and you both know it very well. This peer-to-peer community is often what sustains students the most. On the other hand, institutional community can sometimes feel fragmented. Students often spoke about feeling like numbers in a large system, especially at SFU, where navigating bureaucracy is overwhelming. At University of Central Asia, the small-scale environment allowed for more closeness, but students still felt the weight of broader systemic issues like financial insecurity or limited career pathways. To me, this highlights an important lesson. Community is not automatic. It has to be cultivated intentionally. Institutions need to create spaces where students not only receive support, but also contribute to and feel ownership of the community, right? So to summarize, institutional support exists, but it is uneven. For students with additional responsibilities, flexibility, financial and childcare support and emotional recognition are most needed. And while community exists, it is fragile, something we must nurture intentionally to make higher education more inclusive and humane.
I agree with you. Support connects closely to the idea of success.
Absolutely.
And in your view, what does student success really mean? I believe you briefly mentioned about that in our earlier conversation, but could you please talk more about that? And has your understanding of student success been shifted during your own academic journey?
Absolutely. For me, student success goes beyond grades and degrees. Based on my research and my years of teaching, I see student success as a holistic experience, one that includes academic achievement, yes, but also emotional well-being, social belonging, cultural grounding, and readiness to life beyond university. When I began my PhD, I thought of success in more traditional terms, completing assignments on time, publishing papers, and advancing academically. But as I interviewed students for my research, my perspective shifted. Many of them measured success not by grades, but by ability to balance completing responsibilities, maintain mental health, or make their families proud. For example, at the University of Central Asia, students often define success in relation to their families and communities, being able to use their education to give back to the community, to the family that contributed to them. At Simon Fraser University, many students saw success as navigating institutional system, finding support and persisting despite challenges. So my understanding of student success has evoked. It's not just an outcome, but it's about the journey of growth, resilience, and meaning making along the way. When I think of whether success is a process or a result, I would say it's both, but more strongly a process.
Thank you for sharing that important view. You probably already answered this question earlier, but let's just make it more explicit. Do you see success more as a personal achievement or as something collective, shaped by support and structures?
You know, as I already mentioned, I see student success both a process and a result, and I have my own understanding and based on my research about it. So, like graduating or as a result, like graduating or getting a job is only a snapshot. The process, the late nights, the struggles, the mentorship, the resilience built is what shapes the person. And often it is the process where the real learning happens. Now, in terms of individual versus collective effort, student success is never purely individual. Yes, students work hard, make sacrifice, show discipline, but their success is also deeply shared by collective forces, the support of families, peer networks, mentors, and institutional structures. In my research, students often said, I wouldn't be here without, and then they named a parent, a friend, a professor, or a financial aid program. So I see student success as a shared accomplishment. It's the outcome of personal determination and the systems that communicates that enable the determination to thrive. To summarize, student success is a holistic process. It's more about the process than just the results, and it's both individual and collective. My own journey and my research remind me that students should be redefined to honor not just academic achievements, but the resilience, balance, and community support that make those achievements possible. Hope I answered your question.
You have, absolutely. I appreciate the word choice of snapshot when describing the conventional way of how success is viewed. And I really appreciate how you frame student success as both an individual effort and an outcome of community support. That perspective can be very reassuring, especially for students who might feel they're not successful enough, since their struggles may not simply be about personal effort.
Absolutely. My own understanding of student success was like that. But after diving deeper into this topic, I found out that, Yes, it is individual approach, but without the collective approaches around us, we would not succeed as students.
Yeah, I really appreciate your sharing. And if you could make one meaningful change to better support students in higher education, what would that be?
Well, if I could make one change to better support students, it would be to institutionalize holistic support systems that recognize students as a whole human beings, not just learners. This means going beyond academic advising to provide mental health resources, financial guidance, mentorship opportunities, and family friendly policies for those who are caregivers, for those who are single parents and have kids, even not only single parents, and the responsibilities for the family. In my research, I found that student success is often shaped as much by external pressures like finances, family expectations, cultural adjustment, as by academic effort. So we can never say that one is good without the other, right? If we remove one, then things will work better. No, they go along. They're going together. By addressing these factors in an integrated way, institutions could create an environment where all students, not just most privileged, have a real chance to thrive. Ultimately, my hope is that higher education evolves the value diverse definitions of success, empowering students not only to excel academically, but also to live meaningful, balanced, and engaged lives.
Thank you. That leads us to an even deeper question for all of us to reflect on moving forward. How do we transform higher education? That's absolutely a wonderful note to end on. Thank you again for sharing your insights with us today. This has been such a thoughtful conversation. I really appreciate your time and wisdom. A big thank you to Makhifirat for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me today. Thank you.
And thanks to all of you for listening. Stay tuned for more conversations coming your way soon. Until next time.